My child, listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will shift the way you look at this entire season. This Christmas will not arrive gently. It will not slip into your life like every other year, wrapped in familiar comfort and decorated with predictable joy. No, this Christmas carries something unusual, something electric, something that refuses to be ignored. A secret is about to surface, a truth that has been hiding behind someone's smile, and the person connected to this truth is a woman whose presence has lingered around your life far longer than it should have. My child, before you ask me who she is, stop for a moment and notice the very first thought that just crossed your mind. That face. That name. That feeling. Yes, the one you're trying to brush away. The one you're afraid to admit. Because deep down, your spirit already knows her. You've sensed something off. You've felt a strange heaviness. You've noticed her words don't match her intentions. And this Christmas, the truth she has been hiding won't just come out, it will unravel itself in front of you in a way you never imagined. But hear me clearly, nothing in this message is here to scare you. Nothing is here to threaten you. Everything I reveal now is meant to protect, prepare, and free you. Her downfall is not physical, not harmful, not violent. But it is spiritual. And when it happens, when her influence over your life collapses completely, you will feel a joy that you haven't tasted in years. A weight will lift. A fog will disappear. A spiritual knot that's been tightening around your path will suddenly snap open. This Christmas, something attached to this woman, her intentions, her hidden behaviors, her silent interference, will end. Not her life, not her body, but her hold. Her access. Her spiritual doorway into your peace. And that, my child, is why you will feel relief so deep it will bring tears to your eyes. Now let us walk into the story, the way heaven showed it to me. Let us step carefully into the Christmas that is coming, not the one people imagine, but the one where hidden things loosen and masks finally slip. Imagine the morning of December 25th. You wake before the sun fully rises, sensing that the day feels strangely different. Not bad. Not dangerous. But charged. Like the air just before a storm that clears the sky. Your home feels warm, glowing softly as you move from room to room preparing for the evening ahead. You straighten the cushions, check the lights, adjust the decorations, and think of your guests. The family, the friends, the familiar faces that fill your home each year with laughter and memories. But this year, there will be one person arriving with a different intention. She will greet you with the same charming smile. She will compliment your home. She will hand over a perfectly wrapped gift. She will act kind, polite, maybe even overly warm, but beneath that surface lies something she hoped no one would ever perceive, a spiritual weight she has quietly carried toward you. Not a weapon. Not something physical. But an energy, an intention, a silent push meant to disturb the peace you've been building. And she has no idea that heaven has already intervened. As the evening arrives, the rooms fill with voices and laughter. People arrive with plates, treats, affection, and stories. Everything seems normal, everything feels right. But then she arrives. The woman. Wearing clothes that sparkle slightly, carrying a smile that looks perfectly crafted, stepping inside as if nothing in her heart is out of place. But your spirit knows better. She walks in, carefully observing the room, quietly scanning the energy, waiting for the moment she can release what she brought, not an object, not a product, but the silent intention she's been nurturing in her heart. The intention to distract, to unsettle, to pull your joy downward. She believed her influence would blend into the room unnoticed. She believed her energy could pass into the atmosphere quietly. But what she planned, and what heaven has prepared, are two opposite directions. My child, listen carefully. The impact she hoped to make was never physical. Her intent was spiritual, a subtle shift, a quiet disruption, a hidden attempt to dim the light of your home. Darkness does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it walks in wearing perfume and smiling sweetly. Sometimes it enters through familiar faces. Sometimes it hides inside a heart that has not healed. As she moves around the room, greeting others, laughing lightly, pretending all is well, she waits for the moment where she believes she can speak something subtle, a phrase, a suggestion, a carefully placed comment, meant to plant doubt, spark tension, or stir insecurity. People like her never attack directly. They whisper indirectly. They don't push the door, they gently nudge it open. But what she doesn't know is that before she even stepped into your home, I went before you. I filled the space with protection. I covered every room with light. I placed a shield around your heart and the hearts of those you love. So while she believes she is stepping into a place she can influence, she is actually stepping into a place where her influence collapses instead. Watch now how the scene unfolds. She enters the kitchen, pretending to help, pretending to assist with the preparations. She speaks softly, observing your every move, waiting for the perfect moment to release her quiet negativity. Not with words of aggression or loud criticism, but small phrases dressed in sweetness, coated in concern, wrapped in politeness. Maybe she intends to say something about someone you love, a comment designed to plant worry. Maybe she plans to question your decisions, disguised as friendly advice. Maybe she hopes to open an old wound, a memory she knows can trigger you. Maybe she carries an emotional heaviness, hoping it will settle into your atmosphere and dim the joy around you. But the moment she prepares to release it, the moment she opens her mouth to drop even a subtle piece of spiritual heaviness, something unexpected happens. Her voice catches. Her words shift. Her intention backfires. It's as if the very energy she hoped to send out circles back into her own chest. Her expression changes slightly, her breath stalls for a moment, and confusion washes over her face. She feels the weight of her own intention pressing inward instead of outward. She tries again, searching for a way to release the negativity she brought with her, but each time she tries, her words weaken, collapse, or fade. She senses something she did not anticipate, a boundary she cannot cross. She feels unable to stir anything. She feels blocked, silenced, stopped. And she does not understand why. But you, my child, will understand the truth. Her spiritual influence ends this Christmas. Her silent access closes. Her emotional doorway shuts. Her power over your life dissolves. This is why you will feel joy. Not because she suffers, for she won't. Not because she is punished physically, for she won't be. But because what she tried to release will return to her instead of touching your home. Now watch what happens next. As the evening continues, she begins to realize she is not in control of the atmosphere the way she expected. She notices people around you are smiling brighter, laughing louder, feeling lighter. She notices that the more she tries to connect, the more disconnected she feels. She notices her attempts to plant doubt fall flat. Her subtle manipulations fail. Her usual emotional influence over you, gone. It slips away like smoke that cannot cling to anything solid. My child, do you know why this happens? Because this Christmas, heaven is cutting the final thread between you and her. Not violently. Not painfully. But naturally, spiritually, quietly. The truth she carried, the intention she held, the access she once had, all dissolve. Her season in your life expires. And this expiration is the unanswered prayer you didn't even know you prayed. When midnight approaches and the final conversations begin winding down, you will feel a surprising calm in your chest, a peace so rich, so deep, it will feel like a warm blanket settling over your soul. You won't know why at first. You won't understand the exact moment it shifted. But you will feel it, something heavy that once lived inside you is gone. And she, the woman who entered your home hoping to release something heavy into your life, will leave carrying the very weight she intended for you. Not because heaven harms her, but because heaven returns every intention to its owner. My child, let us go deeper now, because the true unfolding of this Christmas revelation does not end when she steps out of your door. No, the story continues in the spiritual realm long after the last guest leaves, long after the lights dim, long after the laughter softens into silence. What happens next is the part heaven has been waiting for you to understand, the part that reveals why her influence had to break during this season, and why this Christmas carries a destiny-shifting significance for your life. As the night settles and the room grows quiet, you begin clearing the dishes, adjusting the cushions, slowly restoring your home back to order. You move with calmness, almost unaware of the spiritual shift that has already taken place. Something inside the atmosphere feels unusually clear, as if a fog you didn't know existed has suddenly lifted. The silence feels peaceful, not empty. You take a deep breath without realizing that this breath is the first one you've taken in a long time without carrying someone else's weight inside it. And somewhere, without your knowledge, she is also sitting in silence, but her silence feels different. She left your home feeling unsettled, confused, unable to understand why the energy she tried to release returned to her instead. She doesn't know that heaven reversed every intention. She doesn't know that the boundaries you prayed for finally formed. She doesn't know that the door she used to enter your emotions has now closed forever. You see, my child, there are people who enter your life not with physical harm, but with spiritual weight. People who drain without touching. And sometimes, without realizing, you carry their heaviness as if it is your own. But this Christmas, heaven handed you a gift. The gift of detachment, the gift of clarity, the gift of being lifted out of emotional and spiritual entanglement with someone who never wished you peace. Now hear this part carefully, because this is one of the most important revelations in this entire message. Her role in your life was never meant to be permanent. She was a temporary character who overstayed her season. And when someone remains in your story beyond the chapter they belong to, the atmosphere becomes distorted. Events become delayed. Blessings become tangled. Confusion rises. Opportunities slow. Connections weaken. Things that are meant to arrive feel blocked. Things that are meant to flow feel stuck. My child, you have been wondering why certain areas of your life felt paused. Why you felt emotionally tired without knowing why. Why some days felt heavy even though nothing bad happened. Why your spirit felt dimmer even though your faith remained strong. It was because her energy was quietly influencing the spiritual climate around you. Not through spells, not through curses, not through dark rituals, but through the subtle heaviness of her heart, the jealousy she never admitted, the comparison she carried, the insecurity she projected, the quiet desire she had to see you stumble just a little, not enough to ruin you, but enough to reassure herself. She didn't hate you, no, hatred is obvious. But she didn't love you either. And that is more dangerous. Her connection to you was built on mixed intentions, admiration and envy, affection and discomfort, care and competition. And this duality created a spiritual imbalance every time she interacted with your life. That is why heaven chose Christmas, a time when the world opens its heart, to close the door she once used. Heaven chose a day filled with joy to expose what has been dimming yours. Heaven chose a season of light to reveal what has been living in the shadows. Now let me show you what happened the moment she tried to release her silent intention in your home. In the invisible realm, a shield formed around you. A bright, reflective shield, so reflective that any energy, emotion, or intention that did not belong to you instantly bounced back to its source. Her subtle negativity could not land. Her quiet doubt could not seed. Her whispered suggestions could not root. Her emotional heaviness could not spread. Everything she planned dissolved on the threshold of your home. Because when heaven marks a place as protected, nothing can enter that does not belong. Now let us return to the scene inside your home. As you straighten the last chair and turn off the final set of lights, something surprising happens inside your chest. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is not supernatural in a way that shocks you. It is a simple, quiet realization: you feel lighter. Not because the night was perfect, but because a spiritual weight that has been following you for months has finally fallen off. You may not identify it immediately, but your spirit knows exactly what happened. Some people bring peace, and some people bring heaviness, without ever intending to admit it. But this Christmas, the heaviness she brought stayed with her when she left your home. Now let me show you what happens next. This is the deeper part of the revelation. The reason heaven intervened, the reason her influence collapsed, the reason your spirit feels freer than before. You sit down, maybe on your couch, maybe on your bed. You breathe in. You breathe out. And in that simple moment, you feel something open inside you, like a window you didn't know was closed. A soft breeze of clarity enters your mind. Thoughts begin to settle. Worries that lingered for weeks suddenly lose their grip. You feel a sense of direction you haven't felt in a long time. And then, without planning, you begin to reflect on the people in your life. Not negatively. Not judgmentally. But truthfully. And suddenly, her face crosses your mind. Not with hatred, but with understanding. You see her clearly now, not the version she presented, but the version heaven revealed. And you realize, she wasn't your enemy. She was simply someone who didn't belong in the next chapter of your life. Her purpose is complete. Her influence has expired. This is why you felt uneasy around her at times. This is why your intuition whispered warnings. This is why your spirit felt tired after interacting with her. Heaven was showing you long before you understood. Now let me reveal what this shift activates in your life. When a spiritual tie breaks, even one you never intentionally formed, the blessings that were stuck begin to flow again. Opportunities that were delayed begin to move. Ideas that felt unclear gain clarity. Relationships that were blocked begin to heal. Confidence rises. Peace stabilizes. You feel present again. And for the first time in a long time, your spirit feels like your own. Now hear this clearly, my child, because this will answer a silent question you've been holding for a long time. You were not weak for letting her near you. You were not foolish for trusting her. And people like you often allow others close, not because you do not discern, but because you see potential where others see flaws. But this year, this Christmas, heaven decided to protect you in a new way. The shield placed around you is not temporary. The clarity given to you is not momentary. The separation between you and her is not accidental. It is divine. It is intentional. It is permanent. Now let us move to the moment she reaches her home after leaving yours. She sits in her room, replaying the entire night, feeling a strange pressure on her chest that she cannot explain. She felt exposed, but she does not know why. She felt blocked, but she does not know how. She felt unable to influence the atmosphere, but she does not understand the boundary she walked into. She thinks it was just an odd night. She thinks she wasn't her usual self. But what she is really feeling is her intentions returning to her, her influence dissolving, her spiritual pull breaking. She does not know that heaven closed a chapter she refused to stop writing in. And you, my child, do not know yet that something new has just begun for you. Something brighter. Something lighter. Now hear me carefully. This Christmas was not about exposing her. It was about liberating you. And liberation is only the beginning. My child, now that the spiritual break has happened and the invisible ties around your life have been gently removed, heaven can finally reveal the deeper layer, the part that explains why the connection with this woman lasted so long, why you didn't see her true intentions earlier, and why this Christmas was chosen as the moment of separation. There are events in life that do not happen because they are convenient. They happen because they are divinely timed. And this moment, the ending of her influence, is one of them. Let us walk into the days following Christmas, the ones where you wake up and something feels different but you cannot explain it right away. It begins with the subtle things. You wake with more clarity. Your mind feels lighter. You breathe without the quiet tension that used to sit inside your chest. You don't know yet that this calmness is the first sign of freedom, but your spirit recognizes it instantly. Your thoughts feel more organized. Your emotions settle instead of spiraling. Nothing dramatic happens externally, life seems normal on the surface, but internally everything is forming itself into a new structure, a healthier one, a stronger one. You begin to notice that the pressure you once carried secretly, the emotional heaviness that felt normal, has disappeared. Not reduced. Vanished. And this vanishing is the evidence that the invisible drain she once created in your life has finally closed. But let me show you why this connection had weight in the first place. The woman you are being freed from is someone who learned to hide her inner world behind polished behavior. She never attacked you directly. She never spoke harshly enough to raise suspicion. She always carried a softness in her tone, an innocence in her posture, and a kindness in her expression. But beneath that surface lived an energy she never healed, an insecurity she never admitted, a comparison she never stopped feeding. Whenever she saw your growth, it made her uneasy. Whenever she saw you happy, she felt threatened. She didn't wish you destruction. She simply didn't want to feel smaller than you. And because your heart is open and your nature is gentle, you unknowingly absorbed some of her internal heaviness. You picked up her subtle emotional shifts. You carried a portion of her unspoken tension. You felt drained after conversations without knowing why. Her energy didn't overwhelm you, it simply tangled with your own. This is why heaven stepped in. Not to punish her. Not to shame her. But to free you. Because your future requires emotional clarity. Your destiny requires spiritual space. And she, without meaning to, was standing in the way. Now listen closely, because this next revelation answers the question your heart has quietly carried. Why couldn't I see her true intentions? The answer is simple: you saw her through your own purity. You interpreted her through your own kindness. You assumed she wished you well because you wished her well. This is the nature of pure-hearted people, they do not assume darkness in others. They do not look for hidden motives. They do not expect betrayal. They do not suspect manipulation. They see the world through lenses made of sincerity. And that sincerity protected you, even when it blinded you. This is why heaven had to orchestrate the separation without requiring you to confront her directly. You were not supposed to expose her. You were not meant to accuse her. You were not called to argue with her. Your role was only to be present, heaven took care of the rest. Now let us move forward, deeper into the days after Christmas. You begin to receive small signs, subtle confirmations that the shift is real. A conversation goes better than expected. A problem resolves more easily than usual. An opportunity appears that had been quietly blocked for months. A person you lost contact with suddenly reaches out. A clarity you've prayed for begins to form inside your spirit. A heaviness you thought was part of your personality dissolves completely. Slowly, you start to understand, the moment she walked out of your home, your path opened. The moment her influence ended, your blessings began to move. My child, a spiritual atmosphere affects more than emotions. It affects clarity, decisions, timing, confidence, and intuition. And being connected to someone carrying unresolved negativity creates invisible delays. It's like trying to run with a weight tied to your ankle. You can move, but not freely. This Christmas, heaven cut that rope. Now let me show you what happens on her side, not in a harmful way, not in a painful sense, but in an enlightening, reflective way. After leaving your home, she begins to notice something she cannot ignore. Her usual ability to influence your emotions or shape your decisions is gone. Conversations with you feel different. Messages between you feel distant. Her opinions no longer affect you. Her presence no longer impacts your mood. You respond to her, but without the emotional pull that once existed. This confuses her. It frustrates her. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she feels the shift she cannot explain. She senses the door has closed, but she doesn't understand who closed it. She feels disconnected, but doesn't know why. She feels exposed, but doesn't know what was revealed. And though she may try to rebuild the connection gently, subtly, slowly, she will find that heaven has placed a boundary she cannot cross. Her season is over. Her influence is ended. And while she will continue living her life normally, your life will rise in a direction she can no longer follow. Now let us step into the moment heaven wants you to notice, the first major shift that comes after spiritual separation. One evening, maybe days after Christmas, you will feel a sudden burst of clarity. It may come while sitting quietly, or reading, or cleaning, or even lying down. Without warning, a thought will appear in your mind, a realization so clear it almost startles you. I feel free. Not free from a person, but free from an invisible weight you carried for far too long. Free in your mind. Free in your heart. And after that realization, something beautiful begins to unfold. Your inner world resets itself. Your motivation returns. Your joy increases. You start making decisions with confidence. You start moving toward dreams you had paused. And through all of it, heaven whispers, now you can rise. Because the truth is, you were never meant to carry the spiritual weight of someone else's unhealed heart. You were never meant to absorb emotions that weren't your own. You were never meant to filter your decisions through the energy of someone who did not celebrate you. You were never meant to walk with heaviness that did not belong to you. This Christmas, heaven returned your spirit back to you. My child, now we arrive at the final stretch of this revelation. The part that explains not only what happened, but why it had to happen exactly now, and what this shift unlocks in your destiny moving forward. Everything up until this point has been preparing your spirit for the moment heaven has been waiting to release in your life. Let me take you to the days after the spiritual break, when the clarity of Christmas begins to settle into your heart like calm water filling an empty bowl. You wake up each morning and you begin to notice that your world feels more peaceful. Not because anything external has changed drastically, but because the internal noise that once clouded your thoughts has gone silent. You feel yourself returning to a version of you that existed long before emotional heaviness tried to shape your identity. A version of you that thinks clearly, feels deeply, walks confidently, and moves boldly. A version that was always there but had been buried under layers of spiritual interference that did not belong in your story. And now that this interference has been removed, heaven can finally show you something that was hidden behind the fog for a long time, your purpose. You begin to sense a new direction forming. Ideas come to you more naturally. Inspiration appears without force. Doors that once felt locked begin to open, not with resistance but with welcome. You start noticing the right people entering your life and the wrong people quietly drifting away. Nothing forced. No drama. Just a quiet rearrangement orchestrated by heaven itself. This is what happens when spiritual ties break, your destiny realigns. Now, let us return to the woman whose influence once lingered in your life. The point of this revelation was never to villainize her. She was not evil. She was not monstrous. She was simply someone who carried unresolved energy, and that unresolved energy began spilling into your world. That happens more often than people realize. Not because someone wishes harm, but because their heart is full, their mind is cluttered, and their spirit is restless. People project what they refuse to heal. Her influence was never meant to last. You were meant to learn, to grow, to see, and then to separate. Not in bitterness. Not in conflict. But in clarity. And this Christmas gave you that clarity. But here is the deeper truth, the truth that brings everything full circle: you did not lose her. You outgrew her. Your spirit elevated. Your intuition sharpened. And because of that, you no longer vibrate at the frequency that kept you connected to her uncertainty. You rose. She stayed. And rising naturally creates distance. This distance is not punishment for her. It is protection for you. And protection is a form of divine love. Now, watch how heaven rewrites your story moving forward. In the coming weeks, you will notice movement. Real, tangible, undeniable movement. Not chaotic movement. Not overwhelming movement. But movement created by alignment, the kind that feels natural, peaceful, and right. There will be decisions you once struggled with that suddenly become clear. There will be opportunities you once hesitated about that suddenly feel safe. This is what happens when a spiritual block is removed. You feel yourself stepping into the version of your life you should have been living all along. And let me reveal something important, something heaven wants you to understand so deeply that it becomes anchored in your soul. Not every delay was your fault. Not every confusion was from your mind. Not every emotional struggle came from your heart. Some of it came from the connection that has now dissolved. Some weight was not yours. Some feelings were not your own. You carried what was not meant for you, and heaven has finally lifted it off your shoulders. Now you will walk lighter, think clearer, feel stronger, and rise higher. But let us go even deeper, into the core of this revelation. My child, one day you will look back at this Christmas and realize it was not about a woman at all. She was simply the symbol, the final thread, the surface-level representation of something much bigger happening inside your life. This Christmas was the closing of an entire spiritual cycle. It marked the end of old patterns, old attachments, old versions of you that could no longer survive in your next season. That woman was only the mirror. Her departure was only the turning of the page. Her influence ending was only the sign that your spirit has entered a higher chapter. This is why your joy will come, not because she left, but because you returned to yourself. Now let me show you what heaven is preparing next. You are entering a season of emotional elevation. A season where your heart becomes wiser, your mind becomes sharper, and your spirit becomes braver. You will begin making choices not out of fear but out of strength. You will protect your peace with confidence. You will choose people who nourish your soul instead of draining it. You will feel your intuition guiding you more clearly than ever before. Relationships will become easier because you will no longer ignore the signals your spirit sends. Friendships will become healthier because you will no longer entertain connections that take more than they give. Opportunities will become clearer because you will no longer second-guess your direction. Your future will unfold more beautifully because your past is no longer holding you in place. My child, let me reveal the most liberating truth of all. Your spirit knew long before your mind understood. Your dreams felt delayed. Your heart felt tired. Not because you were weak, but because you were absorbing signals that belonged to someone else. And this is exactly why you will smile when you remember this Christmas. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because heaven lifted a shadow off your life that you didn't even know was blocking your sunrise. This Christmas was a spiritual reset. A recalibration. A fresh beginning disguised as an ordinary day. You did not lose anything. You gained yourself back. Now let me tell you how your story ends, and how your new chapter begins. In the months following this Christmas, you will walk into blessings that were waiting patiently on the other side of this spiritual shift. Relationships will improve. Opportunities will align. Your intuition will guide you wisely. And through all of it, heaven will whisper to you, this is why it had to happen. Not to hurt you. Not to confuse you. But to free you. This Christmas was not about the end of her story. It was about the beginning of yours. The beginning of clarity. The beginning of peace. The beginning of strength. This is the Christmas you will never forget, not because something dramatic happened, but because something inside you finally awakened. My child, walk into your next season with confidence. The spiritual weight that held you down is gone. The emotional fog that clouded you is lifted. The influence that drained you is broken. You are stepping forward now with a clear heart, a renewed mind, and a spirit free from interference. This is your time. This is your awakening. And from this moment forward, your intuition will guide you. Your spirit will stay protected. Because heaven has placed its hand over your life, not just for Christmas, but for every day that follows.